In this video, we are going to be focusing on mass percentage. What is mass percent? Mass percent is also known as percent by mass or weight. It is a measure of the concentration of a component in a mixture. It is calculated by dividing the mass of the component by the total mass of the mixture and then multiply by 100. Let's see how this formula looks like. Let's say this is mass percent. This is simply going to be the mass of component divided by the total mass of mixture, and we are going to multiply everything here by 100. So here is another problem. This problem says, suppose we have a mixture, 80 grams of salt, which is sodium chloride. We have 80 grams and 120 grams of water. In this case, we have the H2O, which is 120 grams. And we are asked to find the mass percentage of salt in the mixture. So in this case, what we are focusing on is the sodium chloride, which is the salt, and we are asked to find the mass percent. In this case, the mass of the component is going to be the mass of the sodium chloride. Therefore, our mass percent, what is the mass of the sodium chloride? In this case is 80 grams divided by total mass of the mixture. In this case, we have sodium chloride with water. So here we're going to have the same 80 grams plus 120 grams. 80 plus 120, this is simply going to be 200. Therefore, we're going to have 80 grams divided by 200 grams. At this point, we can gram and gram will cancel out. 80 divided by 200, this is simply going to be 0.4. Remember, we have multiplied by 100. So 0.4 multiplied by 100, this is simply going to be 40%. And this is the final answer. Let's look at another problem. Here is another problem which says, suppose we have a mixture containing 30 grams of iron. In this case, we have iron, which is 30 grams, and we have the carbon, and carbon here is, 30 grams of iron, 15 grams of carbon. Carbon, we have 15 grams, and oxygen, which is 5 grams. Oxygen, that's 5 grams. Because the problem says, suppose we have a mixture containing 30 grams of iron, 15 grams of carbon, and 5 grams of oxygen. We should find the mass percentage of each component. In this case, we are going to find the mass percentage of iron, carbon, and oxygen. Let's start with the first one, which is iron. So let's say the mass percent of iron. Iron is 30. This is simply going to be 30 grams divided by 30 grams plus 15 grams plus 5 grams multiplied by 100. In this case, 30 plus 15, this is simply going to be 45. 45 plus 5, this is simply going to be 50. Therefore, we'll be left with 30 grams divided by 50 grams. Still multiply by 100%. At this point, grams will cancel out. We are going to be left with 30 divided by 15. So 30 divided by 15, this is simply going to be 0.6 multiplied by 100. 0.6 multiplied by 100, this is simply going to be 60%. So the next problem we have on the list is to find the mass percentage of carbon. Let's say mass percent of carbon. Carbon is 15 grams. This is simply going to be 15 grams divided by total mass of the solution or of the mixture. Here we have for the iron is 30 grams plus carbon itself, which is 15 grams, plus oxygen, which is 5 grams. Remember, we're going to multiply this by 100. In this case, this is simply going to be 15 grams divided by 50 grams because we said 30 plus 15, 45, 45 plus 5, that is 50, multiplied by 100. At this point, grams will cancel out. We'll be left with 15 divided by 50. 15 divided by 50, this is simply going to be 0.3. 0.3 multiplied by 100, this is simply going to be 30%. What about the last one? The last one, what we asked to find is the mass percentage of oxygen. In this case, let's say the mass percentage of oxygen. Oxygen is 5. This is simply going to be 5 grams divided by iron, carbon, and oxygen. If you plus all their masses here, we're going to be left with 50 grams. Still multiply by 100. Remember, gram will cancel gram, we'll be left with 50 divided by 50. In this case, this is simply going to be 0.1. So 0.1 multiplied by 100, and this is simply going to be 10%. So the total mass percentage of each of the component here, we have for the what do you call it, carbon, which is 30%. We have for the iron 60%, and we have for oxygen, which is 10%. So 60 plus 30, this is simply going to be 90. 90 plus 10, which is going to be 100. And this is it for this problem. Thank you for watching. In this video, we are going to be focusing on mass percentage. What is mass percent?